Good morning, INTERWEB. So last time we went on a quick, not so quick tour of the various modalities found in human languages. This time, let's talk grammatical mood. If any of the modalities from the last video are incorporated into a language's verbal morphology and are non-optional, then you're looking at a grammatical mood. Compare he works here and it is necessary that he work with he can work here. The first two are grammatical moods. Check out that non-optional verbal morphology. The last one is not. Can is an optional modal auxiliary. There is modality going on here, it's just not grammaticalized. All grammatical moods fall into one of two categories, realis or irrealis. Realis moods are grammatical moods that are used to indicate that something is or isn't the case, as the speaker believes it. As a shorthand, think real. Irrealis moods, in contrast, are grammatical moods that are used to indicate that an event is not known to have happened as the speaker is talking. Think unreal. One common system of mood is the indicative subjunctive system. The indicative mood being realis, real, and the subjunctive mood being irrealis, unreal. In such systems, the subjunctive can be used to encode speculative modality. I wonder if it is finished. Reported modality. One says that the soldiers have left. Negatives. I don't think that he is learning. Interrogatives. Does he say he is tired? Presupposed modality. I'm glad that you know the truth. Future. I have never seen such men, nor shall I see. And conditional modality. If you did/were to do this, you would be wrong. Couple of cool things here. In Italian, reported statements are usually in the indicative mood. Ada says that the soldiers have left. Statement, fact, real, indicative mood. But if si dice is used, the subjunctive must also be used. One says that the soldiers have left. Which, kinda makes sense. Second-hand info is, quote, realer than third-hand info. So the indicative is used for reported to modality, and the subjunctive for reported gen modality. Italian also does a cool thing with its indirect questions. Both the indicative and subjunctive can be used, but the indicative is considered more informal. He asked me if it would be possible. Which again kinda makes semantic sense. Think real, close, informal, unreal, distant, formal. Or at least that's how my brain deals with it. And then there's this, from Spanish. I am looking for an employee who speaks English. I am looking for an employee who speaks English. Because of the moods at play here, the first reads more like I'm looking for an employee, any employee who can speak English. Whereas the second is more like I'm looking for a particular employee who can speak English. So we can say that the indicative is being used for definiteness and the subjunctive for indefiniteness. Again, fitting with our real, unreal shorthand. Italian does a similar thing. I am looking for a girl who speaks Chinese. I'm looking for a girl who speaks Chinese. Okay, so what else? The subjunctive can also be used for obligative modality. Compare I must go and I should go. Should is the modal past form of must. English uses the modal past to weaken a statement, but in other languages, like Latin here, the subjunctive does the job. But I should still stay, I think. The subjunctive can also be used for purposive modality, for we must punish that bad man that he may be better. Wishes, fears, etc. May God bless you. Resultative modality, they were so disturbed that the consul himself seized them by the hand. And imperatives and jussives. If thou wilt, let us sail and let us set forth with speed. In this case, the subjunctive mood marks the first person jussive and the jussive marks the third person jussive. In Italian and Spanish, the subjunctive can be used instead of the imperative to form a polite command. Please come in. And finally, another important function of the subjunctive is to show subordination. That is, it's the mood that most often crops up in subordinate clauses. The fight went on indecisively until the night broke it off. Sometimes the subordinate clauses are indeed irrealis, so marking them with the subjunctive would be appropriate, but at least in this case, it's all realis, making the subjunctive a marker of subordination and nothing else. Now, indicative subjunctive systems are mainly found in Indo-European and African languages. In other languages, particularly those of the Americas and Papua New Guinea, mood is dealt with in terms of realis-irrealis systems. Now here's where it gets confusing. Both systems are basically the same. The indicative mood and the realis mood both express realis modality, real stuff. The subjunctive mood and the irrealis mood both express irrealis modality, unreal stuff. So, to be clear, capitalized realis-irrealis are categories, lowercase realis-irrealis are grammatical moods. If you're thinking, well, that's a dumb naming system, you're not alone, it truly sucks. Why? Historical bloatware and the fact that linguists, people who work with words for a living, are just universally bad at naming things. Anyways, I digress. The biggest difference between both systems is that markers of mood tend to be fusional in indicative subjunctive languages, but analytical in realis-irrealis languages. That is to say, mood in indicative subjunctive languages tends to come bundled with person, number, tense, voice, that kind of thing. Whereas mood in realis-irrealis languages tends to be marked with individual affixes, single words, and so on. Compare Spanish's indicative and subjunctive moods to Maricopa and Kiowa's realis-irrealis moods. Fusional mood markers, isolated mood markers. Also, realis-irrealis systems tend to either be joint or non-joint. In joint systems, the main function of mood markers is to show up with other grammatical categories. In non-joint systems, the mood markers show up independent of other markers. Take amylase here. They will kill the pig as it runs out. Whenever you've got a future marker, the irrealis marker must be present. It's obligatory. The grammar requires it. Contrast that with muyuwa, where the irrealis marker is allowed to exist independent of other markers. I will go to lie tomorrow. In terms of propositional modality, realis-irrealis languages nearly always mark the simple past and present as realis. They killed the pig as it ran out. They are killing the pig as it runs out. And the future is nearly always marked as irrealis. They will kill the pig as it runs out. Except in Caddo. Caddo has two future markers, both of which require realis marking. I'll look at it. I'm going to look at it. Future, realis. So the future is real, I guess? Central Pomo also allows realis marking to be used in the future, but only if the speaker feels like whatever being referred to has a greater chance of happening. When I am no longer here, you will suffer. Other modalities that can be marked as irrealis include the speculative and deductive, maybe I'll go, but more often than not, these tend not to be marked for mood. The interrogative, will he come? And the negative, I don't see him. Although many languages have specific negative and interrogative markers that do not affect the mood of a statement. Reporter modality, at least in realis-irrealis systems, tends not to be marked for mood, whereas conditional modality does get marked, most often as irrealis, if he sees it. Although Sinagoro, for example, marks conditionals as realis. If the canoe comes, I will go. And, like we saw in the previous video, Bargam marks the habitual past as irrealis, creating a sort of hybrid modality type thing. It's nuts. When the pig would return and then the owner would go and, on seeing it, used to give it food. Imperatives and jussives tend to be marked as irrealis, respect your father and mother. As with indicative subjunctive systems, irrealis marking can make a command weaker, ergo more polite. Don't hit him becomes you must not hit him. And finally, obligative, he should/is obliged to sing, and abitative modality, he can do it, can also occur with irrealis marking. So it should be clear by now that the irrealis moods get used for a whole bunch of stuff, whereas the realis moods are kind of boring. This makes sense. There is more nuance to be had when dealing with unreal statements, as opposed to relatively cut and dry, factual, real statements. Nevertheless, there is some realis fun to be had. In Kinyarwanda, you have three conjunctions, ko, ngo, and kongo, each expressing different levels of commitment to the truth by the speaker. He said that he'd come, and I have no comment. He said that he'd come, but I have direct evidence that makes me doubt it. He said that he'd come, but I have indirect evidence which makes me doubt it. So it's almost like it has three different realis moods. Oh, and another thing you might have noticed is that mood is a verbal thing, but some languages encode modality on their pronouns. Subjunctive has two sets of first-person pronouns, one set for declarative statements, and the other for non-declarative statements. So realis, irrealis perhaps. I've come, where are you going? Other languages like Kayardilt mark modality on the verb and noun, and I'm pretty sure that's it in terms of non-standard mood marking, but like Chamigoro's definite articles are marked for tense, past the, present future the. So a conlang could do something similar, but for mood maybe. Who knows? Anyways, I hope that gave you all some food for thought. Laters. Good morning, INTERWEB. That was part 2 of my little mini-series on mood and modality. If you have not yet seen part 1, you should go check it out. It'll be linked in all the usual places. Sources: Mood Modality by F.R. Palmer and the Advanced Language Construction Kit by Mark Rosenfelder. Go check them out. A massive thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching my videos. A special thanks go out to the patrons who helped make Artifexian a possibility, and an extra special thanks go out to Isaac Silbert, Andrew Chehayl, Robin Hilton, World Anvil, Ripta Pasay, and John Hooyer. Gonna plug this again. If you're a world builder, you need to be checking out World Anvil. Links in all the usual places. Until next time, Edgar out.